In this edition of the Prep Rally podcast, we will talk about the final week of the regular football season for high school football teams as teams start to jockey for position in the upcoming playoffs.
It's the Prep Rally Podcast, the only podcast in the state dedicated to prep sports. Brought to you by the Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Here's your host, Chip Souza.
This is the Prep Rally Podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and I'm joined today by the handsome, ruggedly handsome Ricky Fires to my left, and the not ruggedly handsome, but in way better shape, Leland Barclay down in the River Valley.
Absolutely.
That's
it. You hit it right there.
There we go. I think your horse was trotting on the sidewalk. You got to get him back over there in the grass and the dirt.
I know it.
So it is Wednesday, and it is November the 2nd.
Yeah.
But we are talking about weather coming in for Friday night football games, Rick. So we are having a lot of football games moved. Now, it is 2:30 on Wednesday.
Yes.
So we are already hearing these games that we know of, Leland, have been moved. The Bentonville West game.
Yes.
The game that is the big game of the week in the 7A West. That
Yep.
game has been moved. The Rogers Heritage game, it has been moved to
Yes.
Thursday. The Fayetteville at Springdale Harbor game has been moved to Thursday.
Yes.
7:30.
7:30,
That one,
yeah.
7:30. And the Gentry-Lincoln game has been moved. Now, we are understanding that there probably will be additional games moved, and we will try to get you as up-to-date on that. If you will follow our Twitter accounts, at NWA Chip, at NWA Rick, at NWA Henry, and Barclay Almanac, right? Is that your Twitter?
Yes.
All on Twitter. We will post those changes as we get them. Of course, the hope for us in the media is that we hear about these today on Wednesday and not Thursday, which would be the day of games. But
Yeah.
Twitter is instant. It's instant. So games that we hear, we know they're going to be changed. We will put those out on Twitter.
You know what Leland mentioned, it's not like you got to stack up for food and everything. A monsoon is coming in. That's probably not going to happen. Leland mentioned a while ago, some of this has to do with senior night activities.
Yeah.
And they're going to have people dress up, the parents, and you don't want your senior night activities in a downpour.
Right.
So we're probably going to have some games on Thursday and some more games on Friday. So that's fine with me.
Leland, do you remember back when I first got to Fort Smith in 1999? This is the first time I'd ever seen this, Rick. But I came from Texas and Arkansas, a new state, and they do things differently. Do you remember when this? I think it would be this week of the season, or maybe last week, where you would see a lot of games played on Thursday nights because of deer season starting on that Saturday.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Most of those games were in southern Arkansas.
Yeah.
Now, there were a lot in our games. I remember going up one time and seeing Shiloh Christian play at West Fork because it was a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And, yes, it's because most of the time, or a lot of the schools in Arkansas at that time, they would let out of school on Friday because they knew half of the boys in the school wasn't going to be there because of the start of deer season.
Yeah.
And at one time, it was almost half of the games in the state were played on Thursday night of the final week.
Yeah, that's how it was when I first got here into Arkansas.
Absolutely,
and I was like, why are all these games on Thursday? Well, it's deer season. Well, I'm not a deer hunter, Rick. So, what does that mean? You don't understand. In Arkansas, it's like a national holiday. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah, I was down there at Rising or Fordyce or something, and I said, what's all these guys doing with the orange hats and orange vets? And they were chomping at the bit, but they had to watch the team first.
Yeah.
They had to watch the Fordyce Redbugs, and then, zoom, they were out in them deer woods.
I'll tell you what, one of the best games, Leland, I ever went to, and I think you might have been at this game too, Charleston hosted Shiloh Christian. I think this was about 2000 maybe 01.
Standing room only.
It was, but Gus Malzahn was still at Shiloh, so it had to be 99 or 2000, I guess.
2000, he took over at Springdale.
After the season, though, right? So this could have been the 2000 season. Anyway,
it was 2000 football season was his first.
Okay, so this was the 99 football season.
Yeah.
Wait. You're right. Those were his last football seasons.
Okay.
Him and Peacock both.
Well, Charleston was really good. Shiloh was really, really good. It was a big game down in Charleston, and I will never forget this. This was in deer season, And so all the deer hunters had come in from the deer woods, backed their trucks up. Now, this is before Alumni Field, renovation and turf and all that. It was still the small field at Charleston. But they backed up their trucks as close as they could get to the field, had their chairs setting up on the truck, had plywood boards on top of the beds of the truck.
Love it.
Set up there, and they're dressed in their camo. I mean, their deer rifles are hanging in the trucks and everything. And it was maybe one of the best high school football scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Did the guns and the trucks back there intimidate the referees a little bit?
Maybe.
I would think so.
Maybe. I will say this. If you remember this guy, Leland, who worked for us at the time at the Southwest Times-Record, Justin Rice.
Yes. Yep.
We had a pick'em poll, and that came out that day on Friday, and he was from Northwest Arkansas but had moved to Fort Smith. Well, he was the only one of the group who picked Shiloh Christian to win the game. Okay, now, we knew Shiloh was probably going to win the game, but none of us were going to pick Shiloh. But Justin picked them. So at halftime, Charleston was ahead like 15-13 or 15 to whatever. It's a close game. They were ahead. The PA announcer said, "We would like to welcome the Southwest Times here tonight to the game. If you look down at the 40-yard line, that's Justin Rice with the Southwest Times record. He's the one who picked us to lose tonight." Well, the other two or three of us who were standing next to Justin all backed away from him. And I think he might have got pelted with some popcorn and stuff, So anyway, it was all fun. But anyway, that was great.
And several boos, I'm sure.
A few boos, yeah. So anyway, so we know as of right now at close to 3 o'clock on Wednesday, we've had 4 games moved, and we think we'll have some more. So the big game, of course, Rick, the big game is the Bentonville West at Bentonville, because it has so much implication on the seedings in the 7A West. Now, that's huge. And I'm not going to get into all the playoff scenarios.
That's the Henry Apple.
Yeah, and Henry's not here today. He's broken all that down, and that'll be in the Thursday edition of the Democrat-Gazette. So he's broken all that down about what has to happen for this and that and yada, yada. And if you wear white on Labor Day, you can't get the 1 seed or whatever. Anyway, all that. So anyway, he'll break all that down. But now, Leland, we're going to know a day ahead of time. Before we were going to know, so we'll know now by Friday what the playoff seedings are going to be in the 7A West for the most part.
Well, and like you said, used to when a lot of games were played, we knew a lot of the scenarios on Thursday night.
Right.
And of course, there's very few. In fact, I think when I started, looking at the schedule in August or even July, there were only at that time about 20 games that was going to be played on Thursday night.
Yeah. So the 7A West is still up in the air going into Thursday night's games and or a Friday night game, because Southside and Springdale have not, as of right now, changed their game time. They're still scheduled to play on Friday. So that's the one 7A West game that we, as of right now, don't know that it's going to be changed. It's still scheduled for Friday. And that game also has playoff implications on it as well, particularly for Southside. But in the other conferences, Ricky, last week, Greenwood and Leland, I'm going to start with you on this. You were at the game Friday night at Greenwood with Pulaski Academy. And, Greenwood, they just 55 in a row now at home that they've won.
Yes, and that was only the second conference loss by Pulaski Academy since 2010.
Wow.
And to keep it nice and short and, succinct, I can sum up this game basically in one sentence. Greenwood recovered all 4 onside kicks. They stopped Pulaski Academy on 7 out of 9 fourth down attempts.
That means
Greenwood recovered forced 4 turnovers.
Wow. Well, that's
special teams.
That's really the only formula.
Yeah, that's the formula
for beating Pulaski Academy. But going out and doing it, saying it and knowing it, and then doing it's another thing. So
I love
all
your
of those
story.
things.
I love your story, Leland, where you gave props to Josh Holloway and the assistant coaches who had done such a good job of preparing those special teams for Greenwood for the onside kicks and that kind of thing. So Greenwood gets a 33-23 win against PA. That wraps up the 6A West for Greenwood, wraps up a first-round bye, which is big, Leland, because They go into this final game this week against Little Rock Christian. I guess it's still going to be played on Friday night, as far as I know, hasn't been changed. But they could rest Hunter Houston in this game, right? And then also give him another week off if they
they
chose
can give him
to.
another week off.
Yeah.
And going back to the onside kick and talking about the special teams, I thought Chris Young is the one that summed it up best. If you go back and look at his video where we talked to him after the game, he said, "You guys have no idea what a special teams coordinator goes through the week before Pulaski Academy."
I can't even imagine. I cannot
Yeah,
imagine.
so, but yes, that wraps up home field advantage for Greenwood and a first-round bye throughout. Now, on the other side, of course, that means Pulaski Academy will probably be a 2 seed. They still have to win Friday night to secure the 2 seed. But what that also means is, of course, that they would go on the road on Thanksgiving Friday. Well, Little Rock Catholic has wrapped up the top seed in the other half.
Right.
Which means if we're looking ahead, which we always do because that's, we love doing that.
Yeah.
That means, and everybody's saying this is, round 1 between Greenwood and Pulaski Academy. That means probably Pulaski Academy at War Memorial Stadium against Catholic on Thanksgiving Friday.
That'll be a good one.
Greenwood at home against Benton on Thanksgiving Friday, the number 2 seed out of the Central.
Well, don't discount Little Rock Christian because they certainly have a capable quarterback in White.
Yeah,
the quarterback
big time.
White, who got offered by Alabama last week.
Absolutely.
And,
Walker White's good.
Yeah.
He's a junior. And also don't discount West Memphis or Marion out of the East either. Both very athletic teams. And, West Memphis quarterback last week threw for 441 yards, and they had a receiver that caught 315 yards of passes and 4 touchdowns, and he's now number, I think, 7 in the record book for receiving yards in a game.
Wow.
So don't count out those other teams yet. But again, we do like to look ahead.
We do. So Greenwood has locked down the 6A West and the number 1 seed. Over in Prairie Grove, Shiloh Christian rolled in, Rick, and they got a big win over Prairie Grove. Although Prairie Grove led at halftime, the second half was all Shiloh Christian. They dominated.
Now you
the
talk
second
about
half.
Special teams that played a big part in that game.
Shiloh gets recovers an onside kick. They recover a pooch kick. Big plays. They got a big kickoff return for a touchdown. And they, in the second half, was all Shiloh Christian. But Prairie Grove punched them in the mouth in the first half. Shocker there, right?
They always do.
Yeah, always do. So anyway, that gives Shiloh Christian the 5A West Conference Championship and the number 1 seed in the 5A West. So they got that one locked down. Also last Friday night, Elkins, which was coming off a big win against Ozark from the previous week.
Yep.
You're thinking there might have been a little hangover going against Gentry, a very good team.
Yes.
Ricky, 56-14, Elkins. Elkins, I mentioned this today at our luncheon, Hogs Illustrated Sports Club luncheon. Deshaun Chairs was our player of the week.
Yep.
And I said, when the reshuffle happened and we saw Shiloh going to the 5A West and Prairie Grove going to the 5A West, all of the 4A1 coaches sat around at a big round table and looked at each other and said, well, okay, now that those 2 guys are gone, who's going to step up and take over this conference? Elkins stand up and said, we are.
We are.
We are.
And you talk about chairs, and they got Slade Dizzy Dean at quarterback. They got a great receiving core with Aiden Williams, Betancourt,
right?
And they
little Dean's brother, little Dean,
Stone Dean,
Stone, yep.
So they got an excellent team.
They do.
And Zach Watson, I guess this is his second year.
Yep.
I talked to him the other day, and I guess their junior high freshman team, they're all winning now, so they got it rolling over there.
I love it, Rick, because Elkins has stepped up, and Charleston's going to be. Ozark's going to be Ozark.
Yeah.
They are who they are, and they're a power running team. And when they fall behind, they're going to struggle, to make up, a 2 touchdown difference.
Yep.
But Ozark they are who they are, and usually that's more than enough.
Absolutely.
But props to Elkins. It's going to be fun to watch this lead and see how the 4A1 starts to kind of build itself back up again with Lincoln.
And they will.
With Lincoln and Elkins and Ozark
Gentry.
and Gentry, and how these programs are like
Gravette.
it's now our time. It's our time to take over the conference and that kind of thing, and that's been fun. That's been fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fun to watch. And of course, the week before that, Charleston went down to Booneville. They wrapped up that conference championship in the 3A1. Took care of that. So Charleston's #1 seed in the 3A1. Looking over Leland at the 4A1, Lamar has a big game still scheduled for Friday against Central Arkansas Christian. This won't be an easy game, Leland. It will not be an easy game for Lamar at all. But they do have the possibility of the #2 seed.
No, CAC put up 63 a couple of weeks ago, and they've got a sophomore quarterback who is supposed to be very, very good as well.
Yeah.
So, they're going to have one of those high, explosive offenses.
Yep.
Just like Clinton does. So it will be a tough game. And a big game for Lamar because that one, too, is for a high playoff berth.
Yes.
Or a high playoff seed and home field, at least in the first round.
Right, and that's to be tough. Lamar's a tough place to play. It's a very small, older, very tight stadium.
Yeah.
And it is still grass.
Still grass.
Love it.
Which could play into it tomorrow night.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we got going on with football. This is a big week, of course, regular season finales for everybody. And again, as these games change, we will let you know on our Twitter accounts. So be sure and follow that, and we will try to bring you that as we hear these. Now, also this week down in Hot Springs, I assume that this is still going to go on without a hitch because I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Our Henry Apple will be down at Hot Springs at Oaklawn Park for the state cross-country meet. That will start on Thursday, and he'll have coverage of that. The 6A schools are running on Thursday, Ricky, the 6A girls, 6A boys. Bentonville, big favorites.
They're the favorites
there. So have that, and then the smaller classifications will wrap that kind of up on Friday. So Henry will be down there taking care of that. Also, last weekend down in Hot Springs, Ricky, Fayetteville girls, no surprise, a sweep of Fort Smith Southside in the 6A state championship match. Ricky, if there's ever been a better team in volleyball in the state than this Fayetteville team, I don't think there has been.
I'd have to check with my man Paul Boyd, but my goodness, just dominate.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of them games were 3-0, 3-0, 3-0.
Yeah.
But Fayetteville nationally ranked. I don't know exactly what they were ranked, but Coach Phelan and Paul tell this is one of the best teams in the history of Arkansas high school sports.
Without a doubt. So we had several schools from Northwest Arkansas claim championships, several that played in championship matches. Leland Mansfield girls in, I can't remember now, 2A or
2A, and they beat Lavaca. Mansfield, that's their 7th volleyball state championship and 3rd straight under Coach Kaylee Piles.
Wow. So they have got it going on down there big time. So congratulations to all the volleyball teams. It's a great season, long season, and volleyball, terrific sport. And so now, Ricky, we move on into basketball. So Leland was up here yesterday. Rick, you were over there. We had our media day, Northwest Arkansas Media Day. And at Springdale on Thursday, we have the River Valley Media Day. We'll be down at the FCA facility down in Fort Smith. Ricky, I counted 23 teams that rolled through yesterday. And it's fun seeing all those kids come up, and getting their pictures taken and all that kind of stuff, and just have a good time with those.
You know what? You was real busy. Leland's real busy, but aren't you going to give me credit for making everybody stand in line where they wouldn't
Ricky,
get out of order?
I thought I was going to have to get you a jacket that said security on the back.
Yeah,
of
that's
it.
what. It was just like at the airport. We board a plane. I said, no, nobody cuts in front of the line. We got to ID you. And we don't want you where your picture comes out and your boyfriend says, no, that's not my girlfriend. So stay in line.
Yes.
Everybody would get a turn. So we did that, shot a lot of photos,
job,
did
Ricky.
some interviews.
Well, I tell you what, though, Ricky, all kidding aside, what I do like about you being there is you get a chance to talk to all the coaches.
Yeah.
Every coach needs to know Ricky Fires. Okay? Every coach needs to know Ricky Fires.
Yeah. If I'm on Dixon Street and I need a ride home.
Exactly. Who is that guy laying to the guy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Rick Fires. There you go.
Help him up. Get him home.
Help him up. So that was great. Leland, you were up there. That was great. I had a chance to do – now, Leland, I did a sit-down interview with Caden Miller. I couldn't do it standing up because my arm's not that long. And Spencer Tyree didn't bring a ladder.
You had trouble taking his photo.
I did. Spencer didn't bring a ladder for me to stand on to get Caden's picture. So
how big old boy is he?
about 7 foot tall.
Oh.
So I got a nice picture of his chest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had to do 2 pictures. One of his
And
chest.
put 'em together?
Put them together.
Yeah.
Put them together. So Caden Miller, Bentonville, and Jalen Lee, and those kids were up there, and got a chance to visit with them a little bit, and just a great time. Leland loved hanging out with the kids from St. Paul and Green Forest. One of the little
Bergman?
Bergman.
Yeah.
One of the little Green Forest girls came in. She's a barrel racer.
Yes.
Ricky, her buckle was as big as
saw
she
that.
was.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, her belt buckle. So anyway, that's what's fun. Media days are fun like that. You get a chance to, it's a not after a game where everything's tense and that kind of stuff, and that's fun. And then Leland and Harold McIlvain, my River Valley dynamic duo, will handle the media day down tomorrow in Fort Smith, and we'll have some other good players coming in down there as well.
Hey, let me, we're toward the end of our segment. Let me add this, something I thought about on the way over here. I've written about this. You said about a long season and everything. I want to commend, we're talking rightly for the playoffs and scenarios and winning teams. I want to commend the kids who stuck it out all year on a 1-9 team, 0-10, 2-7. These kids, especially senior, I mean, savor that last game.
Been there.
Been there. The kid, because it's easy when you're losing, you're walking down the hallway and say, "Oh, you guys are losers. Why don't what?" For them to go through spring, then 7-on-7, and then in the fall, and still on the team, even though they're still losing, I got to give those kids a lot of credit for those kids making it through the year, even though you won't be going to the playoffs.
Exactly. And before we wrap this up real quick, and I see my guy, Spencer, he's giving me the slash sign over there. Leland, this was on Facebook. I saw this, and I had to repost this. If you've never played high school football, and I'm not discounting the other sports but they're all important, but high school football is a completely different animal than other sports because, Ricky, when a senior plays his final high school football game, he's never probably going to play football ever again. He's never going to put a helmet on again, never going to put on shoulder pads. You can play pickup basketball till you're 60, 70 years old.
Yep.
You can play tennis. You can run. You can play a lot of this stuff. But when you play your high school football for 95% of the players anyway, that's it.
That's it.
It's done.
I remember last time I took the pads off. Still, it's 40 years later, I remember it.
I do too. And it's something you never get back again. And unless you've experienced it, you have a hard time understanding it. But that's what Ricky, I want to give us, just like you did, a shout out to those seniors who stuck it out. A lot of them since they were, little pee-wees or whatever, that are playing their last and final game. Coming up soon, either tomorrow night or Friday night or whenever that might be. And just, when you walk through that locker room for the last time and you buckle that helmet up for the last time, I hope you appreciate it now, because I know when you get older, you're definitely going to appreciate it.
Savor that moment.
Savor it. So that will wrap up this edition of Prep Rally, the podcast. And again, as these games change, we will announce that on Twitter. So be sure and follow our Twitter accounts to see which games are going to change from Friday night to Thursday night. Again, and then we'll be back next week, and we'll talk about the first round of the playoffs and all that's transpired. So that's it for Leland Barclay. For Rick Fires, I'm Chip Sousa. Thanks for being with us, and we'll catch you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
The Prep Rally Podcast is produced and directed by the Northwest Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Find us on SoundCloud, Apple, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher.